Let me ask you something. What were you doing 10 years ago? Really think about it. Where were you living? What did your mornings look like? Who was in your life that's no longer here? What did you dream about back then? And now, ask yourself this. Are you proud of the way those 10 years unfolded? Some people are, but most people, they pause. They hesitate, because they know deep down they coasted. They reacted instead of acted. They drifted instead of steered. They survived instead of grew. But here's the truth that most people never grasp until it's too late. You are not stuck with the life you have. You are one decision away from a completely different future. But that decision isn't flashy. It's not one massive leap. It's not winning the lottery, getting a breakthrough, or having someone rescue you. It's quieter than that. More uncomfortable. Less romantic. It's the decision to take ownership. Ownership of your habits, your mindset, your relationships, your time, your energy, your health, your goals, your emotions, all of it. If you want to fix the next 10 years of your life, stop outsourcing responsibility for your story, because no one is coming to write it for you. People don't get stuck because of one big failure. They get stuck because they never committed to who they were trying to become. You don't need to map out every step for the next decade. You only need one thing, a compass, not a map. Ask yourself, what do I value? Who do I want to be? What matters most to me? Not to the world, not to social media, not to my parents or my boss, but to me. Clarity is the foundation of momentum. Without it, you'll spend the next 10 years climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. But when you live in alignment with your values, your decisions become easier, not always easier to execute, but easier to identify. You stop chasing the loud life and start building a meaningful one. So let's talk about how. Start with one honest hour. That's it. That's where everything begins. Not with a 5-year plan, not with a motivational quote, not with a productivity app, just 1 hour, alone. No distractions, no social media feeds, no music in the background, no conversation with a friend to keep you from facing yourself. Just you, a blank page, and the courage to be honest. Most people will never do this. Not because they don't have time, but because they're afraid of what they might find. Silence is a mirror. And for many, it reflects things they've worked hard to avoid. Regret, confusion, pain, misalignment, and questions they've never answered. But clarity doesn't come from noise. It comes from stillness. It comes when you stop pretending everything's fine and actually listen to what your life is trying to tell you. One honest hour forces you to slow down, to zoom out from the chaos, to ask, is the life I'm living the one I actually want? That's not an easy question, but it's a necessary one. Because if you can't face your current reality, you can't transform it. If you won't admit what's broken, you won't fix it. If you keep performing instead of reflecting, you'll keep creating results you secretly resent. So take the hour, put your phone in another room, set a timer, and start writing. Start with the truth you've been avoiding. What's not working? It could be your job. Maybe you're good at it. Maybe it pays well, but you dread Mondays and feel numb by Friday. Maybe it's your health. You're tired of being tired or disappointed that you've broken another promise to yourself. Maybe it's your relationships. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel completely unseen. Or maybe it's deeper. Maybe you just feel lost, like life is happening to you, not through you. Whatever it is, write it down. No filters, no justifying, no blaming, just truth. Because honesty is clarity, and clarity is the beginning of power. You might cry, you might feel guilt or anger or fear. That's okay. That's your soul surfacing. That's the noise you've been suppressing, making its way out so something new can come in. And don't just write about the pain, write about the longing, the hunger, the what if you've buried for too long. The version of yourself you know exists beneath the layers of fear and distraction. The dream you keep postponing because it feels too big, or too impractical, or too far away. Let yourself feel it again. Ask yourself, what do I keep tolerating that drains me? What have I convinced myself I can't change? What would I do if I wasn't afraid of starting over? What would I do if no one else had an opinion? This hour isn't about creating a perfect plan. It's about creating a starting point. Because once you're honest with yourself, your excuses lose their grip. Once you see clearly, you can no longer stay in denial. You can no longer live on autopilot and pretend you don't know what needs to shift. The truth will make you uncomfortable, but eventually, it will set you free. And the most powerful part, once you've had one honest hour, you'll want another, and another. And soon, self-honesty won't feel like a breakdown. It'll feel like a breakthrough. It won't feel like shame. It'll feel like alignment, like integrity, like peace. That one honest hour can change the course of your next 10 years, because it reconnects you to what matters, to who you are, to where you're going. No one can give you that, but you. No mentor, no book, no external validation, just you, facing you. So take the hour, sit with your truth, let the silence speak. Because you can't build a future you love if you keep lying about your present. Goals are exciting, they're energizing, they give us something to chase, something to talk about, something to post. But here's the hard truth most people miss. Goals don't fix your life, systems do. You can write down the perfect goal, lose 20 pounds, start a business, save more money, read 50 books, meditate every day. The goal itself is not the problem. The issue is how we go about achieving it. Or more accurately, how we don't. We keep setting goals without changing the environment we live in. We want new outcomes, but we cling to old systems. And that's why nothing changes. The goal might inspire you for a moment, but your system, the day-to-day structure of your life, is what either sustains change or sabotages it. A system is everything that surrounds your behavior, your habits, your routines, your inputs, your energy flow, the people you interact with, the triggers in your space, your sleep, your diet, your calendar, and most importantly, your beliefs. If your system doesn't align with your goal will eventually lose, always. Let's say your goal is to write a book in the next year. That sounds amazing. But you don't block time for writing. Your phone is full of notifications. You tell yourself you're not creative unless you feel inspired. You have no accountability. That's not a writing goal. That's a setup for failure, disguised as ambition. But if your system includes writing for 30 minutes, every morning at the same time, in the same place, distraction-free, then you're no longer hoping to write a book. You're building it, one page at a time. You see the difference. Goals live in your mind, systems live in your life. Want to lose weight? Changing your mindset is great, but if your system still includes junk food in the kitchen, erratic sleep, and no plan for exercise, it won't matter what motivational quote you read. The system is still wired to keep you where you are. This is where most people get stuck. They think their lack of results means they're not trying hard enough. They beat themselves up. But the truth is, they're not broken. Their system is. If you want to fix the next 10 years of your life, stop asking what should I want, and start asking what is the system I need to live that goal consistently. Start small, one change at a time. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. In fact, you shouldn't. Systems thrive on consistency, not intensity. It's not about making radical moves for 3 days. It's about small moves you repeat every single day until they become automatic. And don't just focus on adding new habits. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from removing things. Maybe your system includes too much scrolling, too many late nights, too many yeses to people who drain you, too many tasks that keep you busy but not fulfilled. Every part of your system either brings you closer to who you want to be, or keeps you stuck in who you were. Design your environment to make your goals easier to achieve. If you want to read more, put books where you can see them, and turn your phone off at night. If you want to eat better, prep your meals and remove the temptations. If you want to save money, automate your saving. Don't rely on willpower, rely on design. And here's the deeper truth. When you change your system, you change your identity. You stop thinking like someone who wants change, and start acting like someone who embodies it. The gym isn't something you go to anymore, it's just who you are. Writing isn't a goal, it's a daily rhythm. Leadership isn't something you hope for, it's something you practice every day. Change doesn't come from setting goals, it comes from creating systems that make success inevitable. So yes, keep setting goals, dream big, but then go deeper. Because if you want the next 10 years to look different, you can't just want different results. You have to live by different systems. Look around you. Think about the 5 people you talk to the most, confide in, work alongside, or spend your evenings with. Now ask yourself this. Do they reflect who you want to become, or who you used to be? Your life is shaped, not just by what you do, but by who you do it with. If you want to fix the next 10 years of your life, you have to audit your circle. Not because you're better than others, but because your energy is too valuable to be spent in the wrong environments. Most people never take inventory of their relationships. They hold on out of guilt, history, or habit. But just because someone's been in your life for a long time, doesn't mean they're meant to stay in your future. There are 2 kinds of people in your life: expanders and limiters. Expanders challenge you. They don't let you settle. They see your potential even when you can't. They push you, not in a critical way but in a loving, truthful way. They ask deeper questions. They make you think. They hold you accountable.
And most importantly, they grow with you. Then there are limiters. These are the people who constantly complain, but never change. They thrive on gossip, not growth. They distract you, drain you, or discourage you every time you try to elevate. They don't want you to outgrow the version of yourself that makes them comfortable. So they keep pulling you back with subtle comments, jokes masked as criticism, or constant negativity. Now that doesn't make them bad people. It just means they're not the right people for the direction you're going. If your inner circle isn't aligned with your vision will suffer. Because here's the truth. You will always adapt to the standards of your circle. If everyone around you makes excuses, you will too. If everyone around you aims higher, you'll rise just to keep up. It's human nature. We match energy. We reflect expectation. We become what we're surrounded by, whether consciously or not. So it's time for a serious audit. Ask yourself, who makes me feel lighter, more focused and more alive after I spend time with them? Who makes me feel smaller, stuck, or more chaotic? Who supports my growth, even when it's inconvenient for them? Who do I feel I'm always explaining or shrinking myself around? And the most powerful question, if I wasn't already connected to this person, would I choose them again today? This isn't about cutting people off impulsively. It's about realigning. It's about protecting your space, your goals, and your peace. You can love people and still create distance. You can wish people well and still decide they don't belong in your core circle. Once you audit your circle, start curating a new one. Find people who are obsessed with improvement, people who speak with intention, people who take responsibility for their lives, people who are comfortable seeing others win, because they're building too, people who talk about ideas, more than people. You don't need dozens of these. Even 2 or 3 aligned souls can shift your entire momentum. And if you can't find them in your real life right now, seek them in books, in podcasts, in content that expands your thinking, until you attract the right people in real time. Because proximity is power. When you're surrounded by people playing small, greatness feels arrogant. But when you're around people who dream big and execute bigger, excellence becomes normal. You stop feeling guilty for evolving. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You start expecting more from yourself and from your life. You don't owe anyone access to your future just because they were comfortable in your past. Growth will cost you certain connections, and that's okay. It's not betrayal, it's alignment. So if you're serious about changing the next 10 years, don't just work on your goals, work on your circle, because you can have the right vision, the right plan, and the right drive. But if you're surrounded by the wrong people, it will always be an uphill battle. Success is not glamorous. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. Success is quiet, consistent, and if we're being brutally honest, boring. And until you fall in love with boring, you will never build anything meaningful. Most people don't fail because they're not talented. They fail because they can't stay committed when the excitement fades. They want change, but only when it feels good. They want discipline, but only when it's convenient. They want results, but not the repetition. So they start and stop, chasing momentum without ever building. If you want to fix your next 10 years, you have to stop chasing intensity and start honoring consistency. The real transformation happens in the mundane. Waking up early when no one is watching, showing up to the gym when your motivation is gone, sitting down to write when your brain feels empty, choosing the salad instead of the junk food, turning off the phone instead of scrolling for hours, repeating the same habit day after day after day, not because it's exciting, but because it's necessary. That's the stuff no one posts about. That's the work that builds a foundation so strong, success becomes inevitable. But we've been trained to crave novelty. We live in a culture that rewards the shiny, the new, the fast. So when progress feels slow, we think we're failing. When the routine feels dull, we think we're off track. We forget that mastery is repetition. Growth is consistency. Excellence is boring. The greatest athletes in the world practice the same drills every day. The most successful entrepreneurs review the same numbers, fix the same systems, and make the same calls over and over. Writers, speakers rehearse, leaders meet, builders build. There's no shortcut. There's no hack, just process. And you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. So fall in love with boring. Fall in love with the early mornings, when no one's clapped, the silent grind that no one celebrates, the ordinary days that stack into an extraordinary life. That's where the real edge is, not in talent, not in inspiration, but in the ability to repeat the right things long enough to win. The people who win are not the ones who feel inspired every day. They're the ones who keep showing up when they don't. Boring is what builds trust with yourself. Every time you repeat a small habit, you prove to yourself, I follow through. I don't need hype. I don't need validation. I show up because I said I will. That internal trust compounds into confidence, and confidence breeds resilience. Eventually, the habits that felt hard become automatic. The resistance fades. You stop negotiating with yourself, because this is just who you are now. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth, and when your systems are dialed in, you won't need motivation to write, to work, to study, to train, or to lead. That's the power of loving boring. It turns effort into identity. But here's the key. Boring doesn't mean meaningless. In fact, it's the opposite. The most meaningful things in life, health, relationships, purpose, mastery, are built in the boring moments. The check-ins, the planning, the listening, the training, the showing up when no one is watching. You won't remember every step. But 10 years from now, you'll look back and realize it wasn't the big moments that changed your life. It was the boring ones. The ones you almost skipped. The ones you didn't feel like doing, but did anyway. That's how you fix your future. Not by waiting to feel ready. Not by chasing motivation, but by doing the small boring things so consistently that they become the scaffolding of a life you're proud to live. So stop searching for excitement. Fall in love with boring and watch everything change. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the pressure to be further ahead by now. Let go of the internal scoreboard that tells you you're behind, that everyone else is winning, that your life is somehow off schedule. Because here's the truth. There is no universal timeline. There's no master clock ticking above your head, measuring your progress against the world's expectations. That voice in your head, telling you you're late, it's not wisdom. It's fear disguised as urgency. We've been conditioned to believe that life is linear. Go to school by this age. Get a job by that age. Be married by 30. Own a house by 35. Be successful before 40. If you're not checking the boxes in order, you must be failing. If you're not hitting milestones on time, you must be lost. But timelines are not truth. They are social constructs, built by comparison, and reinforced by pressure. Letting go of the timeline doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop rushing. It means you stop measuring your worth by how fast you get somewhere, and start measuring it by how aligned you are when you get there. Because what's the point of arriving early if you end up in the wrong place? The next 10 years of your life will not be defined by how quickly you reach your goals, but by how deeply you live them. You don't need speed. You need direction. You need alignment. You need patience with urgency, the willingness to move forward with purpose, without the desperation of a ticking clock. Some people will peak early. Others will bloom late. Some will rise, fall, and rise again. That doesn't make them better or worse. It makes them human. And your timing is yours for a reason. You don't need to keep pace with anyone. You need to stay in rhythm with yourself. Progress is personal. Just because someone started a business at 25 doesn't mean you should. Just because someone got married at 28 doesn't mean you're behind. If you're still finding yourself at 35, just because someone else figured out their passion early doesn't mean yours won't unfold in a deeper, more meaningful way when you're actually ready for it. The obsession with timelines creates anxiety, not achievement. It pushes people to chase what they're supposed to want instead of what they're meant to build. It keeps people stuck in comparison, staring sideways instead of moving forward. But you don't grow by looking at other people's timelines. You grow by being present in your own. You can't build anything sustainable while rushing. You miss the lessons. You skip the preparation. And when you get what you wanted, you won't be able to handle it because you didn't build the character to hold it. Growth takes time. Deep change requires patience. Healing takes seasons. Mastery is slow. Becoming someone you're proud of is not a one-month project. It's a decade-long journey of alignment, trial, error, learning, and evolving. And sometimes delays are the most powerful form of protection. What feels like a setback might be a setup for something better. What feels like being behind might be the space you needed to develop the strength, wisdom, and clarity to step into the future you actually want.